Hey troops, Roy for Geeks Avengers. Woohoo! Broadcasting from the Clintonville section of Columbus, Ohio. So, let's see. Saw it on Sunday morning. Wow. Time to ruminate, time to digest, time to go a lot about the movie. All right. So let's get this going here. The quick, spoiler-free review. What you doing watching this? Go watch the dang movie. Very, very rarely, especially in the 21st century, you have the hype machine generating all this talk about blah, 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 about a movie. Very rarely does it actually accomplish that. As much as I love Nolan's trilogy, I like Dark Knight Rises, no question, but their laundry list of issues, etc., etc., etc. It goes on and on. You run into stuff. That's not the case here. I guess the only caveat that you may want to throw into is that if you're just jumping into this on a lark, don't. You're not going to have any clue what any of this means. It's not going to make any sense. It's 10 years of storytelling that all culminates into this. It's like watching the last 5 minutes of Godfather 3 and go, huh? But go see what you doing. What? Go watch the movie. Go. And then you will also go, did I mention that? All right. So now the real stuff. All right. Spoiler. See this? Spoiler shield. From this moment on, I'm going to be yakking in detail. All right. You the one getting the chips. You heard me, right? Spoiler shield. You in the back about, you getting the giant soda. Remember, spoiler shield. All right. You've been warned. All right. I remember, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to check, go to the early, 7, Thursday showings, Wednesday showings, all that whatnot. And, even just, reading word, not the reviews, but, early reaction, people going, you're going to need so much tissue, blah, 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 blah. And I'm thinking, okay, look, I'm a sappy, emotional guy, but come on. They're not kidding. You want to talk about emotional roller coaster? Holy crap, they did not play. It's funny watching this film because I've continuously joked how the way the MCU works is as much as possible. Feige, since literally he saw Star Wars, the first, Episode 4, since he was a little kid, this giant notebook of one day I'm going to make a giant movie series. And these are the things I'm not going to do to screw it up. And kind of call my needs here. Is the film perfect? No. But if you're going to end 10 plus years worth of storytelling for some of the most annoyingly exacting people on the planet, you did a pretty dang good job. A lot of the theories that have been bandied about were correct. It happens. The details, no. The film, the way the film works, the way the film works, kind of actually occurs pretty quickly, from the little end credit scene from Captain Marvel, actually. She shows up and like that look of what the heck's going on? Where's Shuri? Who are you people? And the logical thing you do is you go in, let's kick Thanos' butt. We're gonna do blah blah blah, and that's not that easy. It's never that easy. And what happens is the film kind of explodes 5 years later, which was kind of the one of the fun parts of the film is that when you're talking about superheroes, uber power buildings, metahumans, whatever term, mutants, whatever term you want to use, that sense of invincibility. Even in the face of crisis, there's still that sense of invincibility. Oh hell no! You want to talk about defeat? Wow, man. All of Mike Tyson's opponents got nothing compared to this. Um, and the film does follow the traditional three part storytelling arc in the film. And in the first part is the train wreck, which is humanity. 5 years later, you see what everyone's going through, and it's interesting to watch because you see even in the case of super powered beings, the different ways you handle things. You've got at 5 years later, you got Stark, who's kind of gone past it all and doing well. Surprisingly enough, Banner doing really well. For comic book fans who've wondered if they'd ever bring back the Smart Hulk's back, and Banner's liking it. I guess you could say there's a detente inside of him, between the big guy, himself and the other guy. There's this funny scene where they're in a diner and a bunch of kids come up. Hey, can we get a selfie? And Banner's like, yeah, sure. And then the other way of dealing with mass tragedy, you see Rogers and you see Natasha, and them trying to hold things together, continuing the fight, helping people survive. What Rogers does best, and what Natasha's always tried to do. Remember in the first Avengers, that ledger that's all red, kind of continuing that. The third way you deal with it is all hell breaking loose, and it turns into a train wreck, which is what happens to Clint. One of the most heartbreaking things, actually. You want to talk about box of tissue and all that crap. You remember in the trailer, you see Clint, teaching someone how to use bow and arrow, how to use a bow, how to shoot. That is his daughter. And you want to talk about breaking your heart from the onset. At this point, there's no surprise, but his family. But to see it happen, and to see it happen the way it would for most of the planet, out of context, not knowing everything. 1 minute you're just chilling with your family. Oh, does anyone want a burger? Blah blah blah. Next minute, where is what the hell just happened? Breaks your heart. And the fact that you have context from Age of Ultron, the scene with his family, the scene with his kids, that unique, that the interesting dichotomy that Clint has of badass, super, uber sniper fighter, blah 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 blah, and on the other side, he's got this normal, as normal as they can be. Odds are they're probably the most well-trained combat family on the planet. You know what I mean? And in that one moment, to see that all ripped away from him, and he doesn't have a chance to do anything about it. And you want to talk about failure? Thor is probably the worst one. There's been a lot of talk about the running joke that he. Okay, the running joke about how I wasn't kidding about spoilers, folks. You were warned. When we see Thor, he looks like Lebowski. He looks like the dude from the Big Lebowski. Brother's been drinking a lot, so he's carrying extra pounds. He's got long hair, the whole 9 yards. And at first, you start like, dude, man, he lost it. He's failed. that's why he has turned into this version of himself. He's failed. He failed Asgard, and then failed Loki. Now he's failed half of the. And it's bad enough, you how many people, but he failed half the universe because he had to talk smack to Thanos rather than just cut his head off, was what he should have done in the first place. And ironically enough, he brings that up when they tried their first attempt at dealing with Thanos. Which is what's the most tragic thing is, at this point, the reason he has drowned himself in alcohol, in remorse. I mean, think about it. We all know folks that are dealing with loss and mental illness and the umpteenth forms of it, whether it's bipolar disorder or whatever. That's what he's facing, is the fact that I failed half. It's my fault. Half the universe is gone. And what he becomes is a manifestation of all that. All that grief and loss. And the whole movie just kind of breaks your heart in that respect. So what do you do? Well, that's where the time travel angle comes in that everyone's been talking about. And actually, kind of one of the funny things, actually, fortunately, one of the fun things, the films have always done is that dichotomy, that. Remember the stuff that Joss Whedon introduced, way back in the first Avengers movie and even Age of Ultron. You try and strike that balance of, you got this heavy-handed sense of drama and everything going on. At the same time, you got to be goofy because if not, you're gonna lose your mind. Seeing Scott come back and going, this is 5 years later when he comes back. So, he literally pops out and is going, why is my van here? And they come up with the idea, wait a minute. Got all this gear, quantum, blah, 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 all this kind of techie stuff. And going back to, you got the middle of this film where it becomes a heist film, trying to steal the Soul Stones back in the hopes that you can reverse everything that happens. And yes, the umpteenth story that uses time travel, with Star Trek fans going, not again. But what about paradoxes, blah, blah, blah. Well, the good news is that very, very quickly, before all this gets started, Banner, which actually kind of makes sense, explains, look, this whole thing is not linear, okay? The butterfly effect doesn't necessarily apply. Which also, of course, leaves all sorts of other openings for other things down the road when they want to make more money with more movies. But gives them the wriggle room to go, yeah, we can go back in time and steal all these stones and blah, 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 blah. This is kind of a bit of a moment where you do feel a bit of the fact that this movie is 3 hours long. The heist, they split up into teams, of course, because, well, that's what you do at a moment like this. At various moments to retrieve the stones and create their own version of the Infinity Gauntlet, to basically do their version of the Snapshot in reverse. What happens too is that you get a lot of moments where you get to see all the characters in kind of some funny, goofy, some not so funny, goofy moments, as I'll talk about in a minute. You get a moment where Rogers has to try and steal the Tesseract. And he does it when he's surrounded by Hydra, with they're agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., but they're also, because of the other films we've seen, they're also agents of Hydra. So you're like, how the heck he's gonna sneak out of this? And he's going, oh yeah, so and so wanted me to take it, and they're all looking at him like, what you talking about, fool? And he just kind of whispers, Hail Hydra. And they're all like, oh yeah, you need to take the case somewhere else. Little moments like that are fun to watch. Oh, and there's another kind of funny one where Banner's involved in this. In order to capture one of the stones, they go to the battle in New York City, and Rogers tells Banner, "Look, while you're out here, trying so that no one suspects anything, try Hulk smash. This is smart Hulk, keep in mind." So Banner's kind of like half-heartedly going, "Rawr, smash." It's really funny. It's really cute. The not so funny, really cute, tragic moment. Which there's been there was a lot of talk of who would not survive through the films. When Clint and Natasha go to get the Soul Stone, of all the people not to survive, at least for me, seeing Natasha not survive. Dude, hey, remember what I said? Wasn't kidding. In some ways it makes sense because she's always talked about. I mean, like I mentioned back in Avengers, her ledger, trying to make up for her ledger. Her ledger is dripping red. At the same time, it's like, damn, and Natasha was cool and badass. So it's like, damn. Hey, wasn't kidding also about box of Kleenex. Maybe a couple boxes. In it's the unfortunate thing in some ways though is that you look back at the habit of the MCU and comics in general, the whole genre has of bringing people back. So which all brings us actually to the third act, the most apocalyptic. Wow. You get to the. It's funny because they do end up gathering the stones, and they actually Banner actually puts it on, and they end up. It works. It actually works, and in the way it does it's a very neat way. The way they show it is that it'd be tempting to have all these people appear in front of their families. Oh, little reunions. They do it very subtly. You see Scott at a window looking outside, and it's just some trees, and then all of a sudden you hear these dozens of birds start tweeting and singing, and it's like, ooh, that's a nice touch. Very cool. And unfortunately, at that point, that's when Thanos shows up. Remember the non-linear nature of time. In the midst of all this, Thanos ends up hacking into Nebula's brain, getting information. Blah 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 blah. Basically, shows up. One of the fun things about Thanos is that. It goes back to, wow, we're crossing streams here, The Incredibles. How villains have a bad habit of monologuing. He does a little bit. I take that back. He does a little bit. But nowhere near as much as you would think, because he basically unleashes hell upon the Avengers compound, and you're just kind of sitting there going, it's the umpteenth moment of. And, of course, what ends up happening is, you're in the third act. What happens? How do you settle all this? In some ways, you've kind of solved your problem because, well, you brought it. You've managed to negate the snapshot and everything. The bad news is that, oh, great, we have another Infinity Gauntlet, and he's here. And we just got our butt kicked again, except even worse. Oh, hell no. And what ends up unleashing is one of the most amazing apocalyptic, extended, multi-layered fight scenes that you will see in any film ever. And it starts with what you expect. I mean, you see the trinity for the series of films: Thor and Iron Man and Cap. Yes. Oh, yeah. I should mention that. Iron Man gets a change of heart. Change of heart. Get it? Dumb dad joke. Never mind. And does end up helping them because Stark is basically the smartest person on the planet, except for Shuri and for Parker, but they're both gone. And helps them figure out the whole time travel thing. But anyway, the three of them take on Thanos. It is a wonderful. It's amazing to watch. One of the magnificent things that have happened throughout the whole series is that on comic books, the umpteenth number of fights, they always sound cool. They always sound apocalyptic. The nightmare is that they turn into the last 10 minutes of the Matrix Revolution. When Neo is fighting he's no longer Agent Smith. The uber powerful Agent Smith, and you're thinking, oh, this is going to be the most epic fight, blah, 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 and it kind of gets boring. Or, all the fights in Man of Steel that you thought, Kryptonians fighting, it would be epic. No, all it is people throwing themselves into buildings, and you just sit there and going, well, if you're invulnerable enough to withstand being hit by bricks, then why would throwing someone into a building mean anything? The good news is that doesn't happen here. No. It's like every cool fight scene in any film by Wu Ping, by any film by John Woo. It's like Bruce Lee mixed in with all the cool lightsaber choreography from Star Wars. Freaking epic. With the size of the Battle of Pelennor Fields from Return of the King. It's huge. You see the three of them fight. It's amazing. And remember, spoiler shield, that wonderful scene in Age of Ultron where, who's worthy? And Rogers, yeah. You get to see him wield Mjolnir. And it is the most amazing, awesome, butt-kicking thing on the planet. It's freaking epic. Oh, my lord. But it ain't over yet. Because this is Thanos the Man Titan. I mean, the guy who's got an army of uber-powerful, high-techy, and creepy, monstery things, and he's been doing this forever. So how do you take out an army that is designed to conquer not just planets, not just galaxies, but civilizations? And I mentioned Return of the King, and one of the most magnificent scenes I've ever seen in any film was that charge. You see the siege on Minas Tirith, you see the despair, you see everything about to fall apart, and then you see Theoden's forces appear right at sunrise along the ridge line, and you're like, yeah. And I never thought I'd see a scene that cool until, at this point, as amazing as Rogers is with the shield and Mjolnir, and he's getting his butt kicked. There's no way. And basically, as the umpteenth way of going, F you to Rogers, Thanos calls in his troops, and you see his giant army, and it's like, what are you gonna do? And that wonderful, it's reminiscent of that moment in Return of the King, because you hear that Rogers sees a crackle on his earbud. He's like, oh great, now what? And it's Sam, and you're like, oh hell no. And Sam goes, look to your left. And you see one of Doctor Strange's little gateways open. And you see Black Panther there, Okoye and Shuri. It's like, and the beauty of it is that from there, little by little, more and more and more and more and more gates opening everywhere. And you see the giant massed armies of Earth going, yeah, bring it, Mad Titan, bring it. And unfortunately, the showing I had was with folks who weren't as geeky as me, because I wanted to go, yeah! And from what I understand from a lot of other people, theaters did go, yes, at that moment. And it is from there, it just doesn't stop. Oh wow, it just doesn't stop. Which in some ways is kind of the overwhelming thing in retrospect, because literally the film is going through this kind of exponential graph. You get the first fight with Thanos with the three of them. Wow, what's gonna top it? This next thing, which is kind of what happens. You have this giant fight, and of course Thanos still has this giant ship, and you're like, dude, what's gonna happen next? Thanos is smart. He doesn't just sit there and go, wow, what am I gonna do now? And he starts to unleash his bombardment from his ship. Well, guess who shows up next? Captain Marvel's busy. She's got a universe to deal with. And we're reminded of what happened at the end of Captain Marvel when she beats the living crap out of a fleet of ships from the Kree. It is just wow. And from that point onward, it still builds up further. Her, literally leading the umpteenth cavalry charge to stop Thanos' forces. They come up with an idea of what to do with that new Infinity Gauntlet they've created, and unfortunately, it involves Scott's the equipment in Scott's van, and there's this magnificent moment where they're just kind of they're playing a giant relay trying to get the thing to the van, and at one point, Peter, bless his heart, he's getting his butt kicked trying to get it over there, and and Carol shows up like, look, kid, let me take it and I'll get it over there, and of course there's this giant mass of Thanos' forces, and for the umpteenth time, this is a shout out to the one of the great scenes in Infinity War when, oh shoot, what was it? I don't remember if it was Natasha or if it was Wanda, but one of them, is kind of getting beaten up by one of Thanos's uber powerful hench people, and all of a sudden Okoye and someone else shows up and goes, no, she's not alone. It's awesome, and it's the same thing. You see Valkyrie, Okoye, Mantis. They're all there. It's like the female Avengers from Hades, and they've all got that look of, bring it. Oh, it's so awesome. Oh my god, it was awesome. It is just, wow. It is just amazing. And they pull it off. But like Return of the King, you're reminded, you're reminded of sacrifice. You're reminded of this moment is actually when Stark is the one who ends up sacrificing himself for everybody, using the gauntlet, and it's in some ways it's a shout out to the first Avengers film. Remember when Rogers and Tony are sniping at each other, and it comes down to Rogers going, you have the guts to really throw yourself on the grenade. And I think that in some ways, that's kind of, has it haunted him? I don't know, but it's something I think Stark has always been driven by that, and that's what he does: throws himself on the grenade for everybody. Wasn't kidding about the tissue. A huge amount of tissue. One of the wonderful callbacks the film does, the umpteenth callback, is at Stark's funeral. You see just about everybody there. Black Panther is there, Steve of course is there, Captain Marvel's there, Fury is there, and for the longest time there's this kid, and it's like, who is he? He's a kid from Iron Man 3. And the kid who was bullied, the kid who helps Tony, the kid who I always thought, it was one of those things where you couldn't practically do it in the films to see him interact more and stuff. His character was wonderful, but I always kind of hoped that like one of those 5-minute films where Tony shows up at a science fair with him or something like that. Just as a reminder that this kid that he had some connection with, but in the end, to see him there at the funeral was really freaking cool. It was incredibly cool. And one of those Easter eggs of, dang, you guys dug deep to do this. Um, and the film has this actually, let's go back to Return of the King. The notorious way people are always going, Return of the King took too long. The film is not about Aragorn. Everyone talks about should have ended it with Aragorn. No. Aragorn and the coronation. No, the film was never about him. It's about the hobbits. That's why it took forever to get to that point. Film is about loss. Film is about coming to terms with all these things. And same thing with this. You have Stark's funeral. You have Rogers, his final mission to return the stones, and what happens to him afterwards. Which, depending on who you talk to, kind of brings up a lot of issues of, well, what about paradoxes in time and blah, 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 blah. But like I've always said from the beginning, you need... Hopefully, you hope that Rogers and Peggy do. Well, actually, you really don't know for sure whether, because Rogers at the very, very end, after he delivers the stones, using another time machine thing, he doesn't come back exactly. Who's there? Banner is there, Sam is there, and Bucky's there at the time machine, and all of a sudden there's this guy on a bench. And the interesting thing is that Bucky looks like he knows exactly what's going on. So there was an interview with one of the Russos who was like, yeah, he does know what's going on. And it's Steve, who through assorted things end up being with someone because he's got a wedding ring, and goes to Sam with the shield and goes, dude, passes it on. Fortunately, that does kind of beg the question, of course, so what's Steve gonna do now? He's at least 70. Actually, he looks older than that. But it's like, wow, what happens now? What does happen now? Is the film perfect? No, like I said, you get to the time travel sequence, and there is that feeling. It's not a huge feeling, but there is that once in a while that moment of, wow, how much did I drink? I did ration good. Natasha, you see Steve and you see Tony, get their big moments of mourning from everyone. Natasha, she's one of the originals. There's this very brief moment at the service where Clint and Wanda are talking, and Clint goes, he wishes Natasha knew what was going on, and Wanda, she's lost vision. She goes, no, they know. Which, I get it. The movie's 3 hours long. Add 3 minutes, or something. It just seemed kind of like, guys, come on, it's Natasha. Dang. It's like I said, she's one of the originals. Dang, man. What's up with that? Overall, it's wow. To say it's a lot to absorb is a gross understatement. Like I said, like we've all been saying, if memory serves, it's 22 movies worth of information. Yes, as grand as Harry Potter, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, 22. Holy cow! No, James Bond does not count because they're not interconnected series of films. You know what? If you watched Octopussy, you're not going to care about the rest of them. There doesn't matter. Doesn't mean that they aren't better. They aren't worse. That's just the way the series is. Okay. But, wow. So, yeah. So, what happens at this point? No, there is no end credit scene. However, as I was leaving the film with my girlfriend Tracy and her son Colin, they're doing a montage at the end that apparently is really cool. So you do want to stay. The good news is staying is not a, am I going to miss something about the next phase? From what I understand, there are two ways of taking. There are two trains going on here. The one train is that, if memory serves, Fagin, everyone's going, there's nothing happening until 2021. Which, considering that they just bought Fox and right now are counting their money even more, you need time to figure out, okay, where are we going to fit all these guys? The other interesting rumor, and the thing is that this is kind of being fed by Benedict Cumberbatch. There's a lot of talk about Doctor Strange 2 coming out next year. So, anyway, so there are at this point there are no official theories about is Galactus next villain? Oh, Kang the Conqueror, blah 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 blah. No, nothing. All right, unless actually the other interesting thing that keeps being mentioned, and actually this is from Kevin Feige, is that really the last film in this giant epic, what they're calling the Infinity Saga officially. The last film is actually Spider-Man Homecoming. No, Far From Home, excuse me. Far From Home, which is out in July. Which makes you wonder, oh God, what are you going to do at the end of this? Are you going to do anything? Or are you going to spare us so we can actually have a moment to go, oh, thank God we can absorb this? Or what? We'll find out. So anyway, I've been babbling about this for a really, really long time, and you guys are probably sick of it. So there you go. Yes, I do intend on seeing this at least one more time in the theater. That's planned. And of course, when it comes out on DVD, whenever marketing decides to go, all right, fine, we made enough money off in the theater. No more bonus money for us. Just put it on DVD. I'm going to burn a hole in my copy along with half of the planet. The other half is in China right now. No, the other 1/7 of the planet's going, I got my DVD copy already. Anyway. Hey, y'all take care. Force be with you and all that other junk. Wow. Oh, one little thing to add. So yeah, right now, $1.2 billion. Yeah. Sunday, $1,200,000,000 and probably some extra. Hey, JJ! Episode 9, Star Wars. No pressure, right? Nah, no pressure. Just your end of your saga, right? Anyway, hey, y'all take care. Be good to each other, okay, peeps? Peace. Bye!